Welcome guys, hello, welcome to a new year. I'm Adam, this is illumaesthetic, and we're actually going to start off this year with a lot more videos. We're going to try to make this a weekly thing, but to kick things off, we're going to do a very quick and simple tutorial video for you guys, / review kind of thing. We're going to do a comparison on two sonic cutters that I commonly see the builder world use. We like to use these as a alternative to dremeling, to hot knifing. So this was, up till about maybe 3-4 years ago, like the cheapest option. This is the Honda ZO-41. It's about $500, something give or take. But recently I noticed, granted this is not brand new, but I only recently noticed this last year. This is something that you could find on Amazon for 300 bucks called the Wondercutter S. It advertises to basically be able to do the same stuff as the Honda for about half the price. This is actually about $300 on Amazon, $300, $350. So we're gonna go ahead and open it and go ahead and give it a shot. I'm gonna give you my thoughts. And we're gonna go ahead and cut these EF corner markers for a friend of mine. And I'll give you my thoughts on which one's better, which one I like, pros and cons of each, and whether or not you should add the Wondercutter S to your tools, especially if you're considering doing taillights as a hobby or for fun or for other people. So let's go ahead and box it and get to it. All right, so we're gonna make this quick. I'm gonna jump into it. I'm gonna go over the functions of both of these cutters. So let's go ahead and open this one up. So there's a couple of test things. We're gonna go into the cutter itself, like so. It's covered, so you just have to take it off, not too big deal. This gets stored in here, and this is actually unique in the sense that it is battery powered, so I'll explain that a little later. This comes with extra blades, comes with extra parts. I guess this is a test plastic piece you can use to cut it yourself, and then finally, we have the battery charger on the bottom here, right there. So let's go ahead and put this away. And this does have a general note here. To prevent overheating the tool, please adhere to a 50-50 duty cycle. What this basically means is if you cut for 15 minutes, let it cool down for 15 minutes. Because the way these sonic cutters work is it's not a hot knife, even though you do see a blade here. What this is actually doing is it's vibrating really, really quickly, which is why it's called a supersonic cutter, and that's how it cuts through the metal. The plastic. And that generates a lot of heat, especially internally. So what you want to do is let it cool down every 15 minutes or so. These do have like built-in heat protection that you'll probably see in the video through these LEDs, but I'll explain that as we get closer to the video. So I'm going to go ahead and really quickly just take everything off and make this ready to use. So I'll go ahead and take all this plastic peel. Don't need, use this. Don't need this. Don't need this. Oops. Okay, so now that we have both of these items unboxed and ready to go, I want to go through basically the basic function of it. So on the Honda here, this is a wired only thing, so it only works if it's wired. You turn it on here, and then you have power, normal and high. Pretty self-explanatory. High also generates more heat. For operation, pretty ergonomic. You have a button here. And I don't know if the mic can pick that up, but there's a really high-pitched screech, and then also followed by a green light. You want to hear a consistent screech, which means it's ready to cut. If you don't, then that means that this blade is loose and you do need to tighten it. So tightening is done with a Allen key and a grub screw right here. This is also how you remove the blade to swap it out. So the cut, let's just do a real quick test cut here on the tester. Right here. just like that. Don't need to apply too much force, but it does cut pretty quickly. So same thing with the Wondercutter. So the immediate thing that I find nice about the Wondercutter, it is battery powered. So I can actually turn it on like that. Do not need to plug it in. The plugging it in is only needed if I need to charge this. So it does make it a little more mobile if you need to do projects like in a car or something. The other thing is this button is actually only on when I'm holding it. So it cuts only if I'm holding it. Which may or may not be a good thing depending on your use case. But again, and it's also got this really heavy line, which you may or may not like depending, because it does get cumbersome. But it is okay because this can come with you. Let's go ahead and try cutting this as well. So function-wise, cuts just the same. Keep in mind this also has an older blade on it. For this purpose, we will change it out before we cut the lights. This does go in here. Just be careful though, because if you do put it in, because the button is here, it does run the risk of pressing the button. It does look like they added a little groove here to prevent that from happening. So just make sure you actually put it in face up. Then you just turn it off to go here, and it's off and it's ready to go. So now let's go ahead and just straight cut a light and see which one works better. All right, so without further ado, let's go right into it. I'm going to be rapid firing this. So if you do want a more detailed video of what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, there is a more specific how to cut open lights video tutorial that we'll link. But let's go right into it. So right here, this is a plastic welded EF front bumper turn signal or bumper light. So I'm going to go ahead and Sharpie where I want to cut. I'm going to actually want to cut right where the lens and the off-white housing meet, right behind it, so I can see a very clear lip. So I'm just going to go ahead and Sharpie. This is more for you guys to see what I'm doing than it is for me, because I don't necessarily need this to cut, but it's more of a visual guide. So I'm only going to mark one side because I don't need to do it the other side. So now that I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and cut this on the Honda as my control. This is the older Honda. I'm actually going to go ahead and replace the blade, just so you know we have 2 new blades for this process. All right, so I'm ready to cut. I just had a new fresh blade put on this, so we have a good control. Just do keep in mind that I'm comparing an older Honda to a brand new Wondercutter. So just keep in mind, but I did not notice any drop in performance. So I'm gonna go ahead, turn it on, and I'm just gonna start cutting. Do keep in mind that this is a cutter of sorts, so work somewhere that's well ventilated, because it will have like a plastic melting smell attached to it. But other things to note while you're cutting is obviously make sure you check what's on the other side of what's being cut. You definitely don't want to cut too far, potentially cut yourself, or cut the inside of the light that you don't want to cut. But you can see I'm applying moderate force right here, and I'm going pretty fast. I would say maybe an inch every 2 or 3 seconds. So very soon I'm going to be all the way through the top side. So around the corner. Over, start from here. I'm already noticing how much slower it's cutting. Especially with a new blade, so that's why they give you quite a lot of these blades. It does dull out pretty quick, so it's a good practice to replace blades every project. And right there, so you can see it's flashing green. So what that actually means is it's overheating, so temperature protection, which happens with this cutter if you cut on high. So now what we do is we're gonna actually turn it off, let it cool down a little bit, and in the meantime, while we're letting it cool down, I'm gonna go ahead and cut the other side with the Wondercutter. So go ahead and turn on. Again, this is a little inconvenient with how big this is, but I'm gonna just try to see how this works. So definitely more awkward. And this is also a brand new Wondercutter. This is the first time I'm cutting on this specific one. So right off the bat, this does seem a little slower. Flip it over, still good, so I'm gonna keep cutting until it yells at me. Okay. So now it should be weakened enough that it comes out just like that. And we're good. So we have now successfully taken apart a full set of EF tail lights using both the Wondercutter and the Honda. Due to the keyhole area, it did end up being a little harder than I expected. But now that we have this open, we can go ahead and move on to the next steps, which would be the taillight board creation part. So that will be done in the next video. My overall thoughts on the Wondercutter versus the Honda is really, all in all, the Honda does cut a little faster, but given the price difference and the issue with the Honda constantly overheating, I personally would highly recommend the Wondercutter to anyone looking to do this as a hobby or start buying their entry-level tools specifically for this kind of thing. They do make higher end versions of sonic cutters if you ever want to go down that route. I don't think you necessarily need it because there's a certain point where a Dremel and a sonic cutter will do basically everything you need to do. But other than that, that pretty much wraps it up. All in all, Wondercutter, good, worth the price. Honda still can't go wrong, does cut faster, does have a couple more issues. We like to keep both on hand. But other than that, make sure you follow us, keep updated on weekly videos. We're gonna try to do this once a week now. So what we're gonna do next is we're probably gonna start working on the next step for these lights, which is getting these boards made and start soldering them. So stay tuned for that. Hope you guys like it. If you like what you see, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It really does help us figure out your feedback on what you want to see, and we'll kind of work around that. So I hope to see you guys next week, and we're going to do our best to try to do this once a week. I'll see you guys later.